The data that we have in our products and services is meant to be seen by the people that it's meant to be seen by, and not people outside of that group. And that who those groups are and when they can and can't see it, that's all determined by situations and our rules and our policies. Data loss prevention is enforced in the Purview Center through data loss prevention policies. These policies go into effect, and they're typically looking for categories of data that we've described either through sensitive information types, exact data matches, or our analysis of data in our organization. Then we can create policies around who can and cannot interact with those in our organization. So the data loss prevention section of the Purview Centers here, we have overview, policies, alerts, endpoint DLP settings, and activity explorer. The policies themselves are the root of data loss prevention. We create a policy by clicking create policy. And when we create the policy, Microsoft gives us these different categories of types of data loss prevention policies that they have templates for that are already looking for sensitive information types around that particular type of information. We also have a whole section of alerts that will manage those, and data loss prevention endpoint settings, where we can take a look at advanced classification scanning, file path exclusions if we have file shares we want to not include in that, file exclusions for Mac, evidence collection for activities on devices, network coverage and exclusions, and restricted apps and app groups. All of that is covered here under endpoint DLP settings in our data loss prevention. Anything that goes on in relationship to our data loss prevention policies is categorized and surfaced on this Activity Explorer dashboard. And this will be anything that has to do with our data and our classification of our data, and specifically our data loss prevention. If I come over here to the compliance.microsoft.com, here I'm on my compliance.microsoft.com at the Purview Center, and I click on policies. An example of a data loss prevention policy, let's say that I wanted to prevent users from sending emails out that had IP addresses in them. I don't want them sending out our server info. I could say create policy, and if I was a healthcare institution and I needed to create a policy around, say, HIPAA compliance, I could choose a template. There we go. I could choose a template, for example, under medical and health, and I could say for all countries of reason, United States, and it would say, all right, we already have a HIPAA template that will look for all the sensitive information types that you need to look for to be compliant with HIPAA, okay? So, but in this case, I'm going to choose a custom template because I'm going to create a custom policy whose specific job is going to be to look for server IP addresses. That's if I got to spell addresses right. And I'm going to give it it's a good idea to give it a description. Looks for IP addresses in emails. And I say next, and then I say, all right, what is it you want to look for? Do I want to focus this just on specific administrative units? I'm going to say no. I want to look for this on any user in my organization that's sending an email out that has an IP address. So that's where to apply the policy. So I'm just going to uncheck. These are all possible targets: SharePoint sites, OneDrive accounts, Teams chat and channel messages, devices, instances, on-premises repositories, Power BI workspaces. When I first started doing these, they had these. So they've added, this was a big add, and now they've added all these other ones. I can choose either all email mailboxes, or I can scope it to specific ones. Okay, so these are going to be the same thing for SharePoint sites. I could do all SharePoint sites or specific ones. It depends. OneDrive accounts, they all have that capability. I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to create a customer advanced data loss prevention rules. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to say IP addresses. Looks for IPv4 addresses. And I have a set of conditions and actions. What are my conditions? Well, I need to say that the content contains, so I'm kind of building this out, any of these. And what are they? Well, message or attachment. What am I adding? I'm going to say a sensitive information type. And I could choose labels, or if I've had trainable classifiers, I could click those. Sensitive info types. What is it? I'm going to type IP, and that should find addresses. I could do all of them. For now, I'm just going to look for IP version 4 addresses, and I'll click add. What happens if you find an IP version 4 address? You have the confidence levels. I'm going to say high confidence with even 1, but I could say, oh, 2, 3, 4. Even if they find one IP address, what do you do? In the message or attachment, what do? I add an action. What's my action? Restrict access or encrypt content, remove header. These are all things that I can do. I can say, all right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say restrict access. And I can send notifications, and I can set up who I'm going to notify. I can add policy tips. I can say no IP address sharing. You know, I can add those. I can add rules. I can allow users to override, which I'm not going to do. I can have an incident report that would be a high incident report. I can send an email to certain people, you know, every time it matches the rule, or if I want to summarize, I can do that. And what are additional options? If there's a match to this rule, don't even bother doing any other rules. Let this one take essentially the precedence, or I can set a precedence number and save. So now if somebody tries to send an email address, it's going to say, you know, what I want to do. It's going to say no. I can run the policy in simulation mode and show policy tips, or I can turn the policy on immediately, or I can leave the policy turned off. If I turn it on immediately, it's been my experience that immediately means like supposed to be within an hour, but typically within 24 hours. There. Okay, I have to change something about oh shoot, I thought for a second I didn't have my demo box up. Anyways, so any activities involved around that will show up in the Activity Explorer. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we're going to start off, and we're going to start by going into e-discovery. We have 1 day left. We have a good amount of content we'll get through tomorrow. I know it was like a fire hose today, so good job. Thank you so much for attending, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to start with e-discovery. Thank you.